Well, having said that, I think that I'm just going to start. So those students who are attending us online, you should be able to hear me and you should be able to see me, and I'll share a PowerPoint in just a few moments. But first I wanted to kind of address why are we in this situation, what's going on. Some of you might already know, if you're taking other classes at the CAC, that for the 2 first weeks of the semester, we did a kind of an unusual choice because of the changes in COVID numbers and so on, that we'll offer these classes both as a remote class on Blackboard. On Blackboard Collaborate, you can find like a video class chance to join us remotely, and also in person. So that's why I'm trying to do the 2 things at the same time, and especially being a guy, it's not super easy for me, but I'm trying. So let me just share also with the students online the screen that I have up. But really, I guess that the big thing that I wanted to say is that us being partially remote and partially in person is just this week only. And after that, if everything goes as we are assuming, we will resume in fully face-to-face teaching. So this is a class that meets fully in person every Monday at 6 o'clock here at Maricopa campus. And if semester goes the way I expect it to go, we'll just keep doing that, and we'll be able to cover all of the material in person. However, I do realize that there is a slight chance, if we learn nothing from the past, that things can change upside down in a moment's notice. And if that happens, we are prepared to move online, and we'll navigate through that at that time. Also, if you're ever sick, if you have a illness that you're worried that might spread or that might put you in a risk to come to the class, you're immunocompromised or so on, let me know and I'll work with you and we'll figure it out as we go along. But if you're looking for Bio 201, you're at the right place. We have today, and I'll be right back. I want to give these to you as well. Thanks. We have today scheduled to be together until, I'm trying to find the times. I think that we're till 8 something, 8:45. Initially, this class was supposed to meet twice a week, and then it was changed to once. If we were meeting twice a week, I think that we would wrap up today early. But since we're meeting once a week, we'll see how long it takes, and we'll just take it from there. I'm not necessarily sure with the first week if it's going to take us all the way to the 8:45, but we'll see how we get on. Before we get any further, there's a couple of things that I'm required to share with you every time you take a class, every time we start a new semester. And they involve mainly the class syllabus and schedule, things like that, some general announcements. So I want to make sure that we cover those as well. Really, I think that what's important for the students are the 2 questions, the textbook and how do you get your grade. If you have any questions at any point, I'm normally better at being just asked when the thing is accurate, once it's happening. So just unmute yourself if you're online and shout out. If you write to the chat, I might not see it. When I do screen sharing, I lose the chat. So just don't hesitate, speak up, and I'll try to answer. And same in the classroom, just speak up. Probably one of the most important things that affects students is that, what do I need to do? how do I need to be present here? So this is a face-to-face class. The only exception is this week. So if you are in person in a class, I passed around a sign-in sheet and asked you to sign that so that we just can make sure that you get the attendance recorded. If you are attending online, what I'd ask you to do is write your name to the chat. And I will then at the end of the class go and collect all of those names so I can make sure that you all who are attending virtually also get attendance for today. So you might wonder, why does it matter to be attending? There are processes, I think, in the CAC where it might affect, such as if you're receiving federal financial aid, or if you're here on a visa, or if you're one of the athletes, things like that. So I just simply collect the attendance and pass it onwards. I don't give points for attending. It doesn't really affect me, but it's something that we're required to do. And you'll find out and you'll know if it affects you. So any questions about that? And I'm just going to try to look at also online. I see names being posted, so I appreciate that. And I see some familiar names as well. So this feels a little redundant sometimes. If I've taught you before to tell a B, it's kind of a weird thing, but I'll try to keep it real short. Obviously, I know, I get it that I have an accent, and it might be sometimes hard to understand me. So if at any point you struggle to follow with what I'm saying, please just let me know. Stop me there. I'll try to find different terms, and I'll try to find a different way to answer. How to get hold of me? Last week was a crazy week probably for everyone. So if you have messaged me and I haven't responded to you, it's my bad and I apologize, and I will try to respond tonight when I get back to home. But the easiest way to get hold of me is by sending a message on the Blackboard. Does everyone know how to use Blackboard and how to send messages there? I see nodding in the class. In person. Is there anyone online who has no idea how to use Blackboard or how to message in there? I don't hear any disagreement, so we'll just continue. I can hear myself echoing a little bit, so if you have a speaker on and you're not speaking, if you can unmute yourself, I would appreciate that. Because it's the weird time with the pandemic still existing, I am based on this campus, but I try to not to do too many in-person office hours. So if you want to meet me, you'll probably catch me at the next building. I think it's B building, and there's a faculty offices there. You'll probably find me there, but the easiest way is by dropping me a message and we'll schedule an appointment. It can be in person, it can be online, or by coming before or to the class or staying behind after the class. I will also check my emails, but I'm just not super good about that. I normally go on to a little bit of extent to share what did I do, how did I end up doing that, but I'm probably going to try to keep it really brief today. So my background is in medical imaging. That's what I've done for the biggest portion of my life, especially looking at heart and coronary vessels. And I've been part of quite a few research groups and published quite a bit in Europe on that field. But the story didn't quite take me immediately there. My initial career, first career that I had was in conservation restoration. So working with old stuff, like stuff that's in the museums. And I ended up not just working with old stuff, specializing on organic materials, things that they found from excavation sites. So when they dig into the ground and find stuff from the ancient past. And while doing that, a lot of the stuff that I was working with involved objects that were related to human body. So they were attached to the human body or on the human body or in human body. And then slowly moving on to working with human remains. And at that point, I was like, it probably would be a good idea for me to know something about anatomy. And I went back to school and did my undergrad and postgrad in human anatomy and comparative anatomy. When I was doing that, I realized you can't really peek in to a lot of these human bodies. Like if you get a mummy or so on, you can't unwrap it, look inside. That kind of ruins the thing. So I realized that we need to find a way to do something else. So I ended up doing a lot of medical imaging. So that's how I paid my bills. From there, I moved on to doing clinical research. I have practiced as well. And when I moved to America, I think I had specialized on that cardiac imaging and cardiac research so far that there were very few jobs on my field immediately available. And I was invited to join the faculty of a medical imaging school here in Phoenix. And I did that for a couple of years, and I was like, oh, private school, that's a little problematic because students are paying so much, but not all students are fully getting it. And I got introduced to the concept of community colleges, and I was like, hey, this makes sense, that let's try to make education affordable and easy. And I was then invited to join the Central Arizona College's faculty. I spent a couple of years, I want to say 3-4 years, at our Aravaipa campus, which is one of the campuses further away, kind of a rural campus towards Tucson. And I recently moved to this area then because there was a greater need here for me to be teaching classes. So that's my background. I hope to learn a little bit about each of you. If you already did that post online, that's great, I appreciate. We're going to be spending 16, 17 weeks together, so we might as well know each other. So I will use that as a resource to get to know you a little bit. And we'll be meeting every Monday from 6 o'clock onwards till 8:45. I was asking from in-person class that, are you guys tired? Because I'm like exhausted. This is about an hour, 2 hours away from my normal bedtime. So it's going to be a push, but we'll make it work. I'll try to make sure that since we are meeting once a week, it's probably going to be fairly full-packed days. We'll really, when you come here, we'll make it worth your time. And you learn your stuff, and then you can go and do your stuff. Like I said, I initially had hoped to deliver this class twice a week. We had to, for scheduling reasons, change it once a week, but we will still cover all the same material. I will treat this as if this was a face-to-face class, so I'm not doing a significant portion of online work that you have to do. It's still treated as a face-to-face class. Like I said, if something were to happen, I'll try to make sure that you can join through Blackboard, collaborate. But having said that, some activities that we do are going to be really hard to do remotely, including some of the exams and practical tests and so on. So that might be a little bit of just a backup option so you don't lose out on everything. But I would encourage you to show up in person starting from next week. The other document that I handed out in the classroom, and you can find on the Blackboard as well on our site, is the schedule for this course. And that schedule really gives you an idea when we meet and what sort of assignments we have. You'll notice that we don't have too many assignments that are online. Most of them take place in a class. I put quite a few tests and spot tests and lecture tests with the intention that not one single test will be all that your grade is dependent on. So we'll try to do more, and that way you have less lined up on one if you at one point it's not going your way. I don't really do homework as such on normal cases. The reason for that is that I think that you should know how well you're doing in the class. If you feel like you're struggling, it might be helpful to read the textbook, either ahead of the time or afterwards the time that we meet. And if you feel everything's going fine, then you probably don't need to do as much homework. But like the homework really is to be familiar with the material that we cover. And if you struggle at some point, to contact me and I will then work with you to make sure that you get the assignment questions. You need those to guide you. I'm trying to think what else I was supposed to tell you. I'm supposed to tell you a few things about the syllabus. That's the other document I handed out in the classroom. And again, you can find it online if you're joining us remotely on our course page. Right where the course material is, there's a syllabus and schedule folder. And I think that's where you can find that. The syllabus probably offers a lot of the answers to the questions students have. But there's also certain elements that I have to tell you from there just because of the school policies. So I'm going to go through those real fast. First of all, you should know how to navigate Blackboard. If you don't, let me know and I'll point you to the resources, because the Blackboard is really where all of the learning materials and so on that are supplementary to our in-person meetings are. And same as how to send a message on Blackboard. And just so that I can say that I am sure that everyone knows how to do it, I'm gonna share my screen with you. It gets real funky when I do it online while presenting online. So and I'm just pulling up the same screen the online class is seeing. So bear with me for a second. So all of the material, like I said, that you might need is underneath the learning modules. I offer quite a bit of extra material, including recordings of everything that I would cover typically in a class, just in case you miss something. You can go back there and look what you expect that would have been covered. And the first week, it has been really about the review of the basic concepts. If you took the Bio 181 or Bio 156, I think you already have it. You don't need to worry about that too much. You already know what's going on. Really, those chapters were there kind of to synchronize two classes that we offer. I delivered this class at another time in another place, but we've already met for a whole week, whereas here we're meeting for the first time. So these chapters were kind of just like that we get to the same schedule. But also the other purpose that I have for it is to make sure that we all know the same material, same stuff. We will be talking about tissues and certain cell concepts that I just assume that you know from your earlier studies from what was the prereq for this class. So if it's been a while or you feel totally at loss, those videos might help you a little bit. The other thing that's important there, you'll see that I've added for coming Wednesday an introductory quiz. This quiz is simply there for me to have an idea, how much do you already know? It is a tough quiz. It basically is a quiz that we used to use to test if you could skip the Bio 181 course and instead of just show that I already know the content, so I don't have to attend to any of those classes and I can just move on to other courses. So it is tougher. I would not expect anyone to get 100% for it, but as long as you attempt it, regardless what score you get, you will get full marks for the points that count towards your final grade. So that's something that I'm asking you to do by the end of the Wednesday this week. And it's just kind of to see if there's certain themes that no one has an idea, for example, how DNA works. Then I know that, well, maybe I shouldn't be teaching, assuming that everyone knows that. Any questions about any of that? Yes. Oh, no. I wonder if mine is going to disappear as well. The best thing with the Wi-Fi here is to just turn it completely off and turn it on. If that doesn't come, then we'll do our best. I'm sorry about that. It's a challenging time. But really the quiz, just do your best, don't stress too much over it. Any questions about anything so far, online or in person? No? We were talking here in the class, I realized that your microphone doesn't pick so far. We were just talking that we had issues with the Wi-Fi here. For anyone who's joining online and trying to figure out what we were chatting about. So let me jump back to that presentation where we were. Oh no, maybe it's just if you reboot that or start your computer. It sometimes does come and go. There's no way of knowing. And while we were on the Blackboard, you might have seen at the very top, there's a button, messaging, and you send messages to me from there. Is anyone lost who doesn't know how to message on Blackboard? You're good? Yeah. I see they're good here in the class, and I assume that if I don't hear anything from online class as well, that you know how to find it. Let me just try to share that once more. There where it says messages is where you would send a message to me. I'm not going to go there because I've already received some. I haven't answered to all of them. My apologies, but that's the quickest way to get hold of me. I normally am better answering there than on the emails. I think we already talked about the office hours, so I'm not going to say more about those. I guess that the second question that I normally get from students is actually addressed on the second page of your syllabus. It's about the textbook. This is always a tricky one because there's some legal aspects. So I'll try to explain, and if something doesn't make sense, ask me, okay? So CAC has a contract with a bookstore, and as per that contract, we're required to tell you that you need a textbook that you need to buy from there. Whether that's right or not, I don't necessarily want to share my honest thoughts about it. The reality is that anatomy and physiology hasn't changed hugely in the past 20, 30, 40 years. We every now and then find some little things, but there's nothing that changes the basic concepts. So I am personally fine with you using whatever textbook you might already have, or whatever textbook you can find for a decent amount of money. There is a textbook available that's completely for free online. It's by OpenStax. So if you type into the Google OpenStax, and that's with X because they're cool like that, and anatomy and physiology, it will go to a page where you find a textbook that's almost identical to what we are telling you to use for this course. There might be some differences in page numbers, some differences in headings and emphasis, but the material is the same. So if you feel that you can navigate through by finding the correct chapters rather than being given page numbers, that is one option that's completely for free online. That textbook is there as web pages, but you can also download it, or you can download sections of it. You can download it as PDF or any other format that runs on tablets and so on. So OpenStax and then anatomy and physiology, and it will take you to a textbook that will be enough for what you need. But officially, I'm required to tell you that no, you need to buy the textbook. So I guess that kind of tells where I'm standing on that. In terms of the lab manual, I will provide you everything you need for the labs. Again, if you have already bought it, it's a good resource, same as the actual textbook that we're telling you to use, because if you're planning to go to nursing or medical imaging or other healthcare related field, it really covers everything you need to know without going too much into detail. But I also, so it's kind of a nice reference book to have, but I also realize I've been a student, you might want to find options where you don't have to spend a lot of money. In terms of the lab manual, like I said, I offer everything you need. If you haven't unwrapped it from that plastic and you have bought it, you can return it. If they ask questions or reasons, you just say that you changed your courses. If you have unwrapped it, they might not accept it. If that's the case, sell it online. You can deduct maybe $5 and someone will buy it online. Any questions about any of the textbooks? I don't see questions. So how is your final grade calculated? I provided a rough prediction of how the points are counting towards your final grade on the second page of the syllabus. Because it is this COVID time and things can change and we can't be in person, we might not be in person, I reserve a right that I might change things around, but this gives you a general idea of what to expect. Spot tests and lecture tests and the final exam are really the big elements that count towards your final grade. There are small odd assignments here and there, mainly if I'm not able to teach a class, like on week 6, February 21st, it's the President's Day, so the college is closed. So for me to be able to give you attendance for that week, I'm simply asking you to do a little assignment online. And it's not a big assignment, but that way we can give you attendance. Any questions about the grades? And if you're joining online, I don't see the chat, so just unmute yourself and shout out. Yeah, I always say terms and conditions apply. I can change things. One thing that I'm required to speak to you about, and it's not just because I feel that I have to speak about it because college tells me, but I do think it's kind of an important one as well, is that if you had an accommodation plan in place at the high school, or you have had one before, we offer the same. So the question comes then that what is a disability? Well, disabilities really are not always visible things. For example, it wasn't until like my mid-30s maybe, that I realized that I had dyslexia. Like letters just changed places for me. Well, I realize now in hindsight that it would have been probably useful if I had gone and applied for disability accommodation for that, for all of those spelling tests that I took. I probably didn't get the grades that I could have gotten on those. Disabilities can be other kinds of things. So I'm just trying to show that there's many things. It's not always just physical things. But we try to make sure that you have every chance to succeed and excel in our classes. So if you feel that there's something going on that might affect you, please, please, please do contact Cheryl Hernandez or the Student Accessibility Office at CAC, and they'll help you. In terms of the COVID, if you're sick, don't come to class. We don't want to get others sick. There is a procedure you're required to report to the college that you've got COVID, and that's on the websites, and I'll let you figure it out because I don't even know it exactly. It's all the information is there on the syllabus. But the biggest thing is that please, please, please don't come in if you're sick. I will work with you to find a way that you don't lose out on points. On a personal note, I got pretty sick a couple of years ago. I went through a couple of rounds of chemo. I'm growing my hair back. I really rather would not get COVID or another kind of a sickness that can be bad. So that's, I guess, my personal take on that. In terms of accommodations, one of the things that I do for fun, I go to Harvard Law to take classes because I think it's always nice to challenge myself. And legally, there is a question, is a pregnancy a disability? Pregnancy is not a disability, but high-risk pregnancy can classify as a disability. So if there's something that happens in your life that you think that might affect you adversely, in terms of that you might not be able to take all the classes or you might have to miss a class, speak to the accommodation office. For example, when we do microbiology classes, there are certain microbes that you might want to stay away from when you're pregnant. So it would help again if you go through the accommodation office. We won't have much of stuff like that going on in this class. Only thing that I can think of that would be relevant in this class would be more of an ethical question. If someone feels very uncomfortable doing dissections or working with parts of animals. If that was the case, I would provide you an alternative option. But again, let us know and we'll try to navigate through that together. I'm supposed to tell you a little bit about lab safety. Really, I guess that the basic gist of the lab safety is that don't do anything silly in a class. I assume that you've heard about lab safety before. Really, the biggest thing that I can think of for our class would be, I'm trying to scroll to the right page. Would be that do not come wearing open-toe shoes because I might need to turn you away from the class. You're required to have shoes that have the toes fully closed. Same as when we give you personal protective equipment, use gloves and so on. Other thing is that we do a lot of stuff on these labs. Even though our classes, lectures take place in this room and we might not be always doing a lab, this is a lab space. So we have a lot of time dead corpses on the table, like animal corpses, or we might have microbes and so on. So do not eat or drink in the class. Do not put your food on the table. That might not be ideal. That might cause issues. If you do so, you might get sick. I'm just trying to scroll that slide. Any questions about anything that we've covered so far? No. So I think that we're now at the point where I've done all the stuff that I'm required to do to tell you. What I'd like to do is to make a start of our first chapter, which is chapter 1 in your textbook. We won't cover chapters 2, 3, or 4. Those chapters were kind of the introductory material that you've revised. So we'll jump to chapter 1, but I think we should take a quick break before that. I'd say that let's take a break for 5 minutes. So if you want to have fresh air, if you need to use the bathroom or whatever, we'll continue in 5 minutes and we'll start talking about the chapter material for this week's chapter. So have a quick break. I'll be here if you have questions, and I'll try to answer to those as well. And for anyone joining online, I'll be handing out a couple of handouts that we use in a classroom. You'll get a copy of those to join me next week in person. So don't feel like you're losing out. You'll still get a copy of all of those same materials. I'm going to take this chance and just grab something from my office for those of you who are here on person. So like I said, we'll continue in just a few moments. And I've noticed that the YouTube where I load these videos sometimes gives hard time if it's a long recording. So I pause this for a second and start in just a bit.